Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, and today I'll be doing a book recommendation video because as a book lover and definitely a bookworm, it is a surprise that I've never made a video like this, and it is about time. Today I'm basically just gonna be recommending some of my absolute favorite solo books.
I'm just going to be touching the surface of my very long list.
These are some of the ones that I've read or reread most recently, because the older ones, well, that's gonna be for another video. And yeah, let's dive right in. The first book I have on my list is one that I absolutely adore. I think I recommend it to people all the time. It is The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. It is a historical fiction, but it is one of the best historical fiction that I've ever read, and considering I've read so many historical fictions before and this has stuck in my head through all these years, proves a lot. Basically, this book is about a 16-year-old girl named Kit. It is during New England times, and this girl, she's from Barbados, and her grandfather died, leaving her an orphan, so she has to move to America to live with her aunt, whom she has actually never met. She had a very luxurious life with her grandfather in Barbados, so it took a lot for her to adjust to life in New England because she has to do farm work and they do not have servants. It's a lot of character development, and there is romance too. There are a lot of happy endings in this book. This book also briefly touches on witches, because in that time period, people used to hunt down witches. If you were suspected of being a witch, you could be tried and executed, but no real witches, okay? It's just people with different religious beliefs, and they are persecuted and called witches and stuff.
What are you doing?
Okay, sorry, that was my sister. She is making a lot of noises off screen. So I think this is a really diverse read. I feel like it covers all the aspects of life in that era, and I really think it touches a lot of important values like family, love. This definitely witches! This definitely a must read. Next book is actually a book that I just read recently. It is called The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think it's a very recent release, last year I think. I actually went into this book not expecting a lot. I saw a lot of reviews saying it was really good and it was like a young adult mystery, and when I read the synopsis, I was really intrigued. As a person who loves mysteries, I just had to read it. It is basically about this girl called Avery. She suddenly just finds out that this billionaire has died and left everything to her, and she has never met this man. She does not know who this man is, but he has just left this money to her and dispossessed his own grandsons. But the conditions for her to inherit this money is to move into his mansion with a lot of secret passageways and riddles. It is just absolutely fascinating. The whole book have you asking a lot of questions. I also really loved the four grandsons. They were really interesting characters, and that is definitely a must read for anyone who loves mysteries, riddles, and all that kind of stuff. I literally finished it in like one day. Moving on, we have another historical fiction, but this is a really interesting one. It's called Luck of the Titanic by Stacey Lee. When I saw this book, I had to get it because number one, I used to be fascinated with the Titanic when I was young, and secondly, when I saw that it was about a Chinese girl who was on the Titanic, it was a must read for me.
And I have to say, I was not disappointed.
It was such a quick read. It was not dull or boring. Let me start by saying first that apparently there were actually 8 Chinese men on board the Titanic, and I think 6 of them survived? I forgot. But because they were Chinese, their stories were never told. It is about this girl called Valora and her brother, Jamie, I think. They're twins. She goes on this ship trying to convince her brother to go with her to America to start a new life and everything, because her father just died recently. And I absolutely love the relationship between the two siblings. It is so sweet. They have such a close bond. You also see the racism that was shown to the Chinese in that period, even though she's technically a British Chinese, they were not treated well. Even though you knew the story was kind of gonna end with a sad ending, it was still so enjoyable, and a lot of the times I forgot that the story was actually happening on the Titanic. It was just so immersive. There was also a bit of romance. This was really deep because you know it's a tragedy, and I usually do not like reading tragedies, but this one hit differently. The next book I have is one that I am pretty sure everyone has heard of before. Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. She is the best mystery author ever. As with all of her books, you can never guess the murderer. Like literally, I read until like almost the end before I had even the slightest hint of who the murderer was. This was such a thriller. So if you're looking for mystery / thriller, definitely read Murder on the Orient Express. And moving on, we have another mystery, another murder mystery kind, but this one is a young adult mystery and it happens in high school. It is called One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. It actually has a sequel too, but let me just talk about the first book first. It starts with 5 teenagers in detention and one of them dies. So the 4 of them are now suspects. This book was really interesting because all through the book, it was in different perspectives of all 4 of these teenagers as they went through this kind of roller coaster ride. They kind of got closer. They are from totally different backgrounds and you would never guess. Okay, maybe not. Okay, it took me like to almost the end before I guessed who was the murderer. And the sequel is called One of Us is Next, and it was honestly pretty good too. Not as good as the first book, but it was really good too. It talks about one of the character, Bronwyn's sister Maeve, and follows her as she goes through a mystery of her own. The next book I have is actually a kind of a Greek myth. Is it just a Greek or Roman? Sorry, I am not good at Greek / Roman mythology, but Cupid and Psyche. I'm not sure whether it's like Greek or Roman. This book is like a retelling. It is called Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite authors of all time. And it was honestly so creative and so good. I reread it so many times. It is told from Psyche. Is her name pronounced Psyche?
Okay, pardon me if I pronounce any of the names wrongly.
It's basically told from Psyche's sister's perspective, and she has never been beautiful. Her sister Psyche is beautiful, and the god fell in love with her and took her away basically. That is the basic summary of the whole book. It was really good. Unexpectedly good. That's all I have to say for this book. Let's move on. The next book is a book I read really recently and I loved it. It's called Tokyo Ever After by Emiko John. It's John, right? I'm not good at pronouncing names. But it is, as what everyone says, The Princess Diaries meet Crazy Rich Asians, because it is about this Japanese girl who finds out she's actually a Japanese princess, and then she goes to Japan to live with her father for like a month or something. It was so cute. Everything about it was absolutely lovely. I fell in love with it. So anyone looking for a quick read, a light-hearted, chill read, definitely go for Tokyo Ever After. There is also a romance, and the romance was really good too. Everything about it was amazing, and I also learned a lot about Japanese culture. Yeah, I think a sequel is coming and I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. The next book I have is one of my absolute favorites again, Mara, Daughter of the Nile. This is a historical fiction because I love historical fiction. If you don't, maybe you'll just be reading the wrong ones, because this is one of my favorites. It is in ancient Egyptian times. It's about this girl called Mara. She's a slave, and one day she's just sold to a master. Oh, and also it is during the Queen... Wait, what's her name? How do you pronounce? Queen Hatshepsut. I'm not good at pronouncing names. I'm very aware. Basically, it's about during her reign, and she has a brother Thutmose, but she's kind of really controlling, and obviously she wants to remain queen, and she does not want her brother to take over. And so there are two sides. There is of course the rebellion, And then there is the one who is on the queen's side trying to find out who is the rebel leader. And Mara is caught in between them. She was sold as a slave to one side, but she grows to know the other side too, and she is caught in between them and she doesn't know which side to pick. It's not a very fast read, but it's really worth it. There is, of course, obviously romance too, and it was expected, but it was really good to see. It was also really interesting to learn about Egyptian culture and slavery in general. Her life was definitely not easy. So this book was really good. It was really heartwarming also. Every time I read to the end, I have tears in my eyes. And the last book is another really good book. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. This will forever stay in my heart. Every time I read this, my heart breaks because it is just so good. It is about during the times, it's a historical fiction again, the years after slavery has just been abolished, and life is still not easy for the black people even though slavery has been abolished. There's still so much racism in America. For example, the government gives them older books. The schools are allocated less money. They're not allowed to shop at some stores. They're not allowed to park at some spots. People just treat them so horribly. But this book is about a family. This girl, Cassie, and her 3 brothers. They are one of the few fortunate families who actually own a plantation of their own instead of working on other people's plantation. So they have it better than a lot of people. But obviously, not all the white people are bad. Obviously, there are a lot of really good ones also, and we will see a few in this book. It was really good, and Cassie is such a headstrong, independent young lady. She sees this injustice and she wants to do something about it. She feels really strongly. She stands up for her friends, but most of the time it doesn't end well. I don't know how to explain it. It's just really good. You have to read it to see for yourself. And that was the last book, so that ends my book recommendation video. It was just 9 books, technically 10, but basically it was just a few of the books that I love. I am planning to make one recommending all the book series that I love. Definitely stay tuned for that. And yeah, if you have any book recommendations, make sure to leave them down below too. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!